Haiku is a record of a moment of emotion keenly perceived that somehow links human nature to all nature.
We're going to talk today about maybe the first 6, 8, 10 rules of haiku to get students started. There are at least 20 and probably more. At a basic level, haiku should be, the Japanese talk about the suchness of things. If you want to know the pine, go to the pine. So we're going to assume that for haiku to be successful, it has to be literal at first. A literal observation based on the sensory world.
So is it fine that a haiku is nothing more than what you're seeing and feeling and doesn't have any complexity or any meaning beyond that? That's still considered?
I think some of those are some of the best haiku, and in fact, I think that's exactly right. I think that the suchness of things says, you don't have to get beyond the simple observation, and whatever the meaning is, we bring that, the reader brings that meaning. What we need with haiku is simply the power of observation. I do a haiku walk with the kids. Let's go out, give them a little pocket journal. They all get one at the beginning of class. Let's write down sight, smell, sounds. We start by collecting images, not trying to write the poem.
Right.
I would recommend you not start with an abstraction. Like, in other words, don't get a theme or an abstract idea and say, let's write about love. I think that lends itself to cliche for one. Haiku has to be literal to start. A literal observation, something perceived through the senses. The abstraction is an outgrowth of that juxtaposition. The aha moment when we read a haiku and respond is taking literal and making it an abstraction. We all of a sudden do something with that poem by extension. Okay, let's review our rules. Haiku is short, usually fewer than 10 rules, or 10 words. In English, 17 or fewer syllables. Haiku does not rhyme. Believe it or not, I do a spoken word and poetry slam with my students. You can rhyme your hearts out. In this case, no rhyme for haiku. Haiku doesn't use direct metaphors and symbols. So the word like or as, no. In Japan, a haiku is not a haiku unless it has a commonly agreed upon kigo. A kigo is a seasonal word or phrase. Kigo in haiku simply roots the poem in one of the 5 seasons. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, and in haiku, the 5th season is the new year. So I start the kids out and I say, you have to use one of these kigo. You have to use it. And then they bring their own poems in, If I were to give this list of kigo to my students, it would probably drive them over the deep end. Your homework, you need to write a haiku using one of these kigo as the introductory line. And the kigo was, and it's in this book, Summer's End. It's a comedy, you're going to find it written a lot of times, Summer's End. And so I said to the kids, this was, we met, let's, at the end of summer, school's upon us, let's write our poems about Summer's End. And so Amy Adderman eventually wrote, faded paper fan on the windowsill, Summer's End. So the other thing you do with kigo is you begin to say, where's the placement in the poem? Is it an introductory fragment or phrase, or do I move it to the end? Or can I put it in the middle? Right. So I would have every one of us, we come to the next haiku club meeting, and every one of us will have written a poem or poems using Summer's End. Let's talk about the summer, this passage of time. Let's talk about your experience. Where were you? What was going on? When was it? And Emily Cornish, from this same exercise, she won a Virgilio Award in 2004, was Summer Cottage. Where were you? I was in my summer cottage. How do we know it was ending? The bullfrog slips my grasp. Isn't that gorgeous? Resonance. Resonance. That a good haiku resonates with meaning. Summer Breeze, Laura Santiago, Virgilio Award in 2003. So you can see there's a bit of a formula here, but these are very original. The flutter of clothes thrown over a chair. Travis Moore, he was our first Virgilio winner in 2002 as a 9th grader. Summer dusk, throwing stones through a broken window. One of the discussions you can have, and give kids again models, is comparative and contrasting images. So this poem by Cor van den Heuvel, Hot Night, Turning the Pillow to the Cool Side. Wonderful. How many of you have had that experience sometime in your life? Good. Remember, haiku is one of those, usually includes a wide range of people and experience, and that's a great poem to talk about. Well, what's going on? You can feel the two parts. What are the images? Constantly reinforcing that structure, what's going on here structurally. All right. I have all the middle schoolers. I have them in 6-week blocks. I only have them for 6 weeks, and I do 2 weeks of haiku for all of them. Here's some urban haiku, and I'll pass these around. This is nothing about football. Okay, this is by Timothy Johnson. The other thing we do at SOTA is we have an electronic bulletin board. We feature haiku a week. Okay, one of the prompts I give them is list 3 sounds you're most likely to hear in your neighborhood. I can't tell you the number of kids who will say dogs barking, gunshots, and loud music. And I'll say gunshots, you really, and we'll talk about that. So I've got some haiku, some kids have written about gunshots. Plug, fingers burning inside my ear. Anyway, I'll show you some of these. But we'll get to this too, because the answer is often what the kids are writing who are not steeped in nature. Although Richard Wright, where's Richard? Richard Wright wrote, this is nothing but haiku. He wrote about the urban experience, after he put the pen down. He didn't want to be a novelist for a while. The Virgilio competition, which I would encourage you to have your students write to, it's grades 7 through 12. How Virgilio works is 2 judges are chosen, different judges every year. And it's blind judging. The judges get all the poems, and they choose their six winners, and then they write a very eloquent responses about the poems. And in fact, if you want to look at former winners and you want to look at their critiques, which are wonderful teaching tools for teachers, go to the Haiku Society of America, click on their website, they have a whole section, on the Nicholas Virgilio Memorial Haiku Awards, and you will get all of the winners and all of the judges' commentary. One of the criticisms over the years, and one of the reasons I think students at the School of the Arts have done well, is we've generally written haiku, and you get quite a few of these in there, which don't necessarily meet as favorably. So how do we define this? Because a senju is haiku in every way that we've discussed, except it's not dependent on a nature image. So it points at the human foibles, the things that make us laugh, the things that can make us tragic, So it's about the human condition, and it's not dependent on a nature image. Now, this is a delightful poem, isn't it, by Stanford Forrester? What's the irony in this poem? There's a great word.
It's not supposed to sing.
Well, where's the submarine?
At the bottom.
How many of you have ever reached into the cereal box fishing out the toy? There you go.
Yeah.
It'd be different if he pulls up a giraffe. All right? Now, this poem promotes a lot of discussion. I mean, it's a simple observation. Again, senju is simply the suchness of things. Observe, report literally. Now here's one that I'm going to ask you. Is this senru or haiku? This is, I think, my example. Okay, I'm going to do this one line at a time. Ready? Father's Day. Now, somebody might right away say, well, that's a kigo.
A kigo, yeah.
I'm not so sure. I guess. She tells me I'm not the father. Again, this is a form that's evolving. It hasn't been around that long. And who am I to say? This is just my limited understanding of what works for me now and may not work down the road. So that's what's interesting about getting involved in the conversation is we're really shaping the poetic form as we go in the English language.
It's called an artist in residency program. And that means that we have an artist, a person that is an expert in a particular area, come and visit children. Robert Rocky Wilson, and he is our poet for today.
So boys and girls, I'm going to read a few haiku. Deserted wharf, the mind bows to the moon. Deserted wharf, the mind bows to the moon. Who was the audience for that mind? The wharf, and what else? The moon bowed to the moon. Does that paint a picture? Can you kind of see that in your mind? Yeah. That's what a haiku tries to do, paint a picture for you.
Isn't haiku supposed to have 5 syllables and 7 syllables and 5 syllables?
Good question. Very good. Well, let's go over that. Does lily out of the water, out of itself, is that 5, 7, 5? No, that couldn't be a 5, 7, 5. He wrote another one. How many syllables?
1, 3, 3.
1, 3, 3. Nick Virgilio liberated you! Yoo-hoo! Can you say freedom?
Freedom!
From 575!
From 575!
Yoo-hoo!
Yoo!
575 is fun. I love to count on my fingers. When I try and make up a haiku, is it 5? Is it 7? Is it 5? And it's fun to try and fit it into that pattern, but you do not have to do that. And especially don't add words just because you want to make 575 that are not really going to add to the poem. Also, Lily out of the water, out of itself. That poem was honored by the Crown Prince of Japan. He loved that poem, and of course it wasn't 575. Show, don't tell. Missing its color, the bare maple reaches for my rainbow. A butterfly is helping little sister forget the heat. Bass picking bugs off the moon. Now, how can a bass pick bugs off the moon?
Since the moon reflects on the water, you could...
Okay, the moon reflects on the water. The bass picks the bugs off the moon. It doesn't actually go up to the moon. Avoid metaphor and simile. You don't want to say it's like something. You let people infer that from your work. A boy in Camden wrote, "Last pass of the game. He jumps and catches the ball, but he never comes down." Eric Gonzalez. So you got a surprise at the end. So you look for things like this outside. You're on a little haiku walk. All your senses have to be tuned in. Smell, sight, hearing. Because all those things help to bring the experience to the reader that reads your haiku. You gather material when you take your walk. You come back in the classroom and we'll work on haikus together. You can jot things down. Ideas you have, it can be from the past. It can be from your walk. It can be from fantasy, imagination. Okay? Are there any questions? Yes?
Can it be 575?
It can be 575. Just because you're free of it doesn't mean you can't use it. Paint the picture, not tell us how to feel. I was happy when I ran in the grass. No. The grass tickled my feet or something like that. All right, what do you say we go back in and try and write?
Yes!
All right, so you guys, you got your pencils, your paper, and let it flow. You have to pay attention to every word. Ashley's going to read it twice. Ashley.
The tree is, green is on the tree. Fall turns the tree red. The tree is still green. Green is on the tree. Fall turns the tree red. The tree is still green.
Wow, that makes you think.
The daisies growing, the grass starting to get green. Spring has come to earth.
Puffballs in the sky, roaming all around the world. Clouds how glorious.
Flag soars majestically. Pansies glittering with dew. Smells of sweet honey. Schoolyard.
All right. Oh, read it again.
Flying in the wind, a blackbird I see, flying back to its young.
Did you all hear that?
No.
Haiku and senru are perfect poetry. So try it. You'll love it. Look, we just have time for a couple more. One, all the way in the back, the girl in the lavender. Come on up, honey, so you're ready. Hold it. Maybe when you go in your classrooms, you could share a little more. And at the end of this workshop, we're going to have a little time to share.
I see the clock ticking. School's almost done and summer has just begun.
All right. Read it again.
I see the clock ticking. School's almost done and summer has just begun.
This is going to be our last one. Then you'll have to go back to the classroom.
The beautiful flowers are planted into the ground. The aroma is so sweet.
Good.